We are live. Awesome. How's it going, Brendan?
Great, Rajat. Great, Rajat. It's
Nice.
always good when we're limiting whole coiners.
Always
It's always a
fun.
great day. It's always a great day.
It's
Great to
true.
see you, brother.
Absolutely. I named this live stream. We've never had an asset with absolute scarcity before. Something that you mentioned there. We have a company, MicroStrategy Strategy, buying thousands of Bitcoin every single week. Like you can see here, they bought 10,000 Bitcoin this week. 10,000, and they keep buying. They keep going. That's the wild part. This is blowing my mind. I don't know how people don't get it. It's the only asset that we've ever had with final scarcity of supply. Nobody can change finality of supply, absolute finality of supply. I think that's the right word. Nobody can change that. Why aren't people getting it? What do you think?
Yeah, and this is funny because the last couple of weeks I've been thinking about this a lot as well, and like writing about it, done some live streams. Just when does game theory kick off? And it's in a sense, people can argue it has, but theory, game theory is a theory. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, at some point, the dominoes, enough dominoes fall where people start rushing in, and we're getting ever closer to that because you juxtapose it with the crumbling of the fiat system everywhere you look, whether it's the 50-year mortgages, 15-year auto loans, the $1,000 kid checks here in America, $2,000. Mike Maloney 15 years ago said that at some point, all the taxes you've ever paid in your life will be rebated back to you. That was like 10, 15 years ago he had said that. And I remember thinking like, wow, that'd be wild. And here we are. I mean, we're how much closer until this happens? And this just again buoys the nominal fiat price of Bitcoin. All these people that are early to the game chowing up every Pac-Manning every single Bitcoin they can. And we have what 99.9% of the world is not even really here yet in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
buckle up.
What percent? I think the percentage of people who actually understand this is very, very low. So let's say I would say out of 1,000 people, maybe one person really
Hmm.
understands it and sees where this can go.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yeah.
go ahead? Go ahead.
No, it's funny. It's funny you say that because Orange Pill app used to be the Orange Pill app. Now it's Club Orange. They have about 20,000 people on that app, and
Wow.
again, it's anecdotal, but at the same time, it's kind of a proxy for hardcore Bitcoiners, like who really gets it. Like someone that's on an Orange Pill app, like a Bitcoiner only app, looking for other people like that, so they're active. That's kind of my proxy in a way. And again, people could, we could put a couple multiples on that and say, okay, maybe there's two, three, or four, or five times as many. There's anywhere from 20 to 100,000 people in the world that are really that ardent, hardcore Bitcoiners. So maybe it's anywhere from 50 to 100,000, but that's it. 100,000 divided by 8 billion people, it's like four or five zeros in there at least
Yeah.
of a percent. Like it's one, 100th of 1,000% or something like that. I mean, that's how early we are. And it's already a $2 trillion asset or whatever, give or take. So, I just don't know how people are sleeping on that still, and it just feels like it's gonna be the iceberg. It's the gradually and suddenly. It takes 15 years, 16, 20 years to get it, and then all of a sudden it just flips, and people are like, "Wow, this just happened like overnight." It's like, well, it was building for years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Hey, before we go into it a little bit more, I want to have you just introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your goal here? You have your own YouTube channel. You can talk about that as well.
yeah, content creator, obviously, working on a few books, blog about Bitcoin, everything. I guess my backstory is I'm 38. I played hockey my entire life, got in a lot of fights growing up, played for the U.S. national team. Graduated college in 08, 09 when the great financial crisis was happening, was very political in the 2000s. Thought I was going to be in politics, was in school for political science, things of that nature, then economics and law, and then realized as things were crashing, wow, I don't know anything about money, and I got to figure this out because school teaches you nothing about money. Government run schooling is the worst way to get wealthy. And so it just became, hey, I got to self-educate, and that's where some of the American founding fathers. It was, I forget, it was John Adams or somebody had said, when your formal education ends, your real education begins, and that was so true for me. And just
Great
Creature from
quote.
Jekyll Island, yeah, it's such an amazing quote. It might be Jefferson, I forget which one said that, and just led the path down. Reading Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Why We Want You to Be Rich, the one he wrote with Donald Trump, ironically. The Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver, Mike Maloney, which is one of my big mentors as well. Understanding money, what was money, and then getting into real estate. investing in gold and silver, things of that nature, and then central banking, finance. What do these things all actually mean? Because as you well know, being a CFA, everything, and being in real estate yourself over the years, everyone just you have this pseudoscience you've learned in school and just like what everyone knew growing up, but it's built on something that doesn't exist, right? It's this Keynesian, broken. Sorry, I shouldn't say broken. Fiat currencies do what they're supposed to do. They siphon all of our time and energy away and give it to the people at the top, the couple people that own the system.
Yeah.
And we can argue about who owns that system and what that looks like, but it steals everyone's life force away, obviously. So we need to replace that monetary bedrock with something. It can't be sand anymore. Fiat currencies, it has to be, because all fiat currencies have gone to zero in all of human history. So we need to replace it with something. So that the last 15 years of my life became this ardent journey of figuring out what is the root cause of these things. I can't stand the band-aids on bullet holes approach to life, and we're just gonna like surface level. Politicians are gonna tell us we're gonna give us stimmy checks and things of that nature. That does zero for me in my life, because we're not getting to the root cause of things. So just, I had my real estate team for 10 years. I retired from professional hockey in 2012, started a real estate team, got into real estate, did that for 10 years, and then 2020 hit, and started learning about Bitcoin after 5 years of gold and silver and in real estate and doing that. 2015, 16, 17, really started getting into Bitcoin and started rocking it, and really went all in 2018 as that bubble started to recede. And then 2020 was like I got to get out of real estate. So that was the inflection point of I got to get out of real estate now, because this whole thing's coming down. Real estate's on the Titanic too. It's denominated in dollars. I got to move to a Bitcoin standard. I got to educate about Bitcoin. This is the way to fix politics, the incentives, the broken stuff you'd see again, and you saw it too, Rajat, in real estate. All the brokenness, the prices going up like crazy. The
Yeah.
cap rates. You can't invest in anything because you have to raise millions of dollars. You're fighting with other hedge funds and private equity to get these things, Blackstone, to get apartment complexes. It was hard to invest in real estate. People couldn't buy homes. And so you're just in this world of, this is Bitcoin. Hard money is what's going to bring us back to that. And hard money for thousands of years was gold and silver, but it had that physical problem to it. Unfortunately, things that makes it great also makes it not great for commerce around the globe. So here we are, and now we spend our days educating, writing, doing content to anyone who will listen. So appreciate you having me here, brother.
It's so valuable that people like, I mean, if it weren't for people like yourself, if it weren't for people like myself, I mean, I probably wouldn't have any idea what Bitcoin is today. I'd have absolutely no idea. And all these, all this news of MicroStrategy buying, JP Morgan buying, or whatever other institutions are buying, it wouldn't have hit me the way that it does today. And you mentioned there, gold and silver are physical, and that's a problem. See, that's one thing that people don't quite
Mhm.
get. You have these things being used as money, but they can't really be used as money. And who uses gold and silver as money anymore? And we got a comment here from Andrew. Some fighting words. Do you guys remember when all the cocky Bitcoiners used to call Bitcoin silver a doorstop? I remember. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
It's still a doorstop. Who's if you keep your silver in a safe and you're not using it to transact, then it's a doorstop. You
Mhm.
can call it a store of value if you want to, but the way that I see it, you can't use silver as money. You can't use gold as money, because who's gonna? If I wanted to pay you, how would I pay you? If let's say we have a transaction going on, how would I pay you if I had gold
Can. I mean, again, unless you and I live in a tribal community in an
next
asteroid
to each
area,
other?
and we live next to each other, then yes, gold and silver are great, and I fully recommend it. That's just not the case. I don't think that's a world we're going to. Now, again, could it be? Yeah, I mean, anything's possible in life. I just don't think, and I don't want to believe that it's going to be like that. I don't think it will be. I think humans will adapt and find their way. And
Yeah.
I was gold and silver guy. Like that was me 10, 15 years ago. And facts change. I didn't think there was anything better than gold and silver either. And that's ironically how Bitcoiners, because you have to lower your ego. And I was a guy pining for Bitcoin or for gold and silver for years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And then you start learning about Bitcoin. You're like, oh, holy cow! Like there might be something here, and it's
Yeah.
not crypto. Crypto is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not crypto, and that's what people, the Peter Schiffs, like brilliant guys. There's brilliant guys out there that lump crypto and Bitcoin still together, and you can hear it when they talk. If you listen to them for an hour, they still will lump it into the crypto crowd and like Moon Boys and it's
Yeah.
printing it from nothing and all these things. Like, as you studied for thousands of hours of Bitcoin itself, you can hear very quickly, does someone get Bitcoin or not, right? And I know you've talked about this over time too. You can decipher easily within a couple minutes, oh, this person gets it or they don't. They don't see it. They think this is crypto. They think this is some, centralized, whatever. It's Tether, some stable coin, all the way down to it's some pre-mined
Yeah.
XRP, whatever, like it. And so Bitcoin is its own world, its own protocol out here that no one controls, and that's what again that confuses so many people and really catches them
Yeah.
off guard. So it's tough, but
Yeah. See, I want to actually do a quick comparison. Maybe this is something that we could talk about a little bit more. I know a lot of people are really interested in gold. A lot of people really want
mhm,
a lot of people really want to know whether they should be buying gold right now at the top. I mean, that's a hint of whether you should be or shouldn't be. So I have a spreadsheet. I try to share these spreadsheets as much as I can, just because I feel like the data on this is very useful. So let me show you this. This is a spreadsheet that I came up with. I put in some characteristics that I personally find important about money. Of course, this is from textbooks. I'm not the one who first thought of these. These are things that I if I were to save in something, then I would want it to have these characteristics. So, for example, I'd want it to be fungible. Fungibility is this one unit is the same as another. They have the same characteristics. If you wanted to spend one unit versus the other, you'd get the same value. So let's say if you walk into a grocery store with a dollar bill and your friend does the same thing, both dollar bills will get you the exact same amount of value. Whereas let's say if you had a diamond, if you had a 1 carat diamond and I had a 1 carat diamond, they still have different characteristics. They're different shapes. They have different clarity. They have different color. They have different even a tiny difference in carats would make a difference. But with Bitcoin, again, you have that fungible asset where one Satoshi is one Satoshi, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. Gold is very good with that. So the last 5,000 years, 10,000 years, however long we've had gold for, we've used gold for, we've always had 1 ounce of gold equal to 1 ounce of gold. So if you got gold from 5, 10,000 years ago, exactly the same thing. And that I think that's where gold wins with every other asset. I mean, it has that long track record. You see your
mhm.
track record. It wins against Bitcoin. The I think one of the issues here, I'm not going to go through all the characteristics, of course, but I think the issue to me, so to me, the issue is that gold isn't portable. You can't, like we said, you can't send somebody gold over the internet. If I need to pay you, then I can't. Whereas if somebody wanted to send Bitcoin, let's say somebody wanted to send Satoshis, they can scan the QR code up there. There are QR codes that you can use. You can use NFT wallets, or NFC wallets, that's what it's called. You can send a Bitcoin very, very easily. Whereas with gold, it's extremely difficult, extremely, extremely difficult. How are you going to send somebody gold across the world? How if I wanted to pay somebody in Tokyo, I'm in Toronto right now. If
Yep.
I wanted to pay somebody in Tokyo, how long is that transaction going to take to settle? Weeks,
30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Further
So
Canadians.
so how is gold even money in the current economy? So this back to this comment. Do you guys remember when all the cocky Bitcoiners used to call silver a doorstop? Nothing has changed. It's still
Hmm.
physical. Bitcoin is still digital. All these characteristics still apply. I'm lumping gold in with silver, even though gold fulfills these characteristics much better. So you can see scarcity, for example. Silver isn't as scarce, or it's not. It's easier to find, from what I know. Do you have any more details on that? Like, silver is easier to find. It's more
Yeah,
common.
and you're finding it too when you're digging for gold and mining
Yeah.
gold. It's a byproduct of when you're digging for other stuff as well. So it is obviously more abundant because of that. So no, it's but going back to the track record. I think some of these things are very important though. The track record is the everyone says, hey, it's been gold and silver in the money for 5,000 years, but it's also failed for 5,000 years in that sense. Where if to have global commerce, we wouldn't have paper and credit and all these other things. I mean, you can make an argument that there's credit in some way, shape, or fashion, maybe, but you wouldn't have fiat currencies because we have
Yeah.
fiat currencies. Is the admission that gold and silver have failed for thousands of years, And so again, a local tribe, a local city, or things of that nature, great. That is wonderful. And unless someone can tell me and show me we are going back to that as a society, and we got people talk about going interplanetary. So
Yeah.
like at some point, we're not shrinking down. And again, if an asteroid hits the Earth, I think we have more problems at hand. Liquor, firearms, like things like that are going to be more impactful lead than gold and silver, or Bitcoin, whatever. We have more issues.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important. And then the portability again, the trade in Bitcoin, when you make the transaction, that is the final settlement. The trade is the settlement, and that's
Yeah.
again, it's an auditing machine that gold. Again, you don't know what you're trading. You have to go trust
Yes.
someone and get you have to go assay it. You have to go do all these shenanigans. And in all that time is the cost. The time is the cost. And that's where shenanigans end up happening. So all the fees, everything you're paying to ship it, plane it, train it. And then on top of that, you have to assay it, make sure it's viable. And so people want to talk about Bitcoin, taking 10 minutes or a couple seconds on Lightning, but then we're over here saying gold and silver are going to be what we're going to go back to that because it keeps resetting the system. Empires keep falling because we keep going back to gold and silver. Again, local community, great. But the 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that's where all the shenanigans come into play. And that's why it's always centralized, because of the physicality into banks, into governments, and you create this fractional reserve system eventually on top of it. At some point, it always happens. And then we reset the system and everyone loses out except a couple guys at the top. And here we go. So again, having gold and silver, having some to yourself, we're not saying don't own any, but if you're going to run a global system on this and you want to go around the governments and take the power away from them, it ain't going to be gold and silver. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
You want to own it yourself? Great. That's wonderful. But don't plan on building a system off of that.
Yeah. Exactly what you said there. It's extremely difficult to run a global financial system with gold and silver. We've gone to fiat. We use fiat today because gold and silver failed. I,
Yep.
I think that people don't
Agreed.
they don't grasp that if gold and silver were such great money, we'd be using gold and silver today. Why aren't we using gold and silver? Why is it that people were okay with, or they weren't even okay with it? They had to. So with gold and silver, if you want to use it as money, you have to trust somebody else. Even Peter Schiff says it. Hey, we're going to use tokenized gold. We're going to keep our gold with somebody, and then we're going to create tokens, and we're going to back those tokens with that gold that's kept in that vault. So that on its own is a problem, because if we go back to just first principles with Bitcoin, I can own it and I can send it to you. I don't need a third party. I don't need somebody in the middle. I don't need somebody to create tokens to use my Bitcoin, to send my
Right.
Bitcoin to someone else, right? With gold, you need that gold to be sitting in a vault somewhere, and you need to trust the person who runs the vault. You need to
Yep.
trust the security company that's guarding the vault. You have to trust so many different people in the middle. Let's say for Fort Knox, for example, we've never audited Fort Knox. Nobody knows how much gold is in there. Nobody has any idea. We just assume, oh yeah, we're going to trust these people. But that's when things go bad. When we trust people, when we trust, let's say, the US government to have that gold with them, that's how they screw us over. When I think the information asymmetry is what it is what really separates the people who can scam you and the people who can't, right? So, and what I mean by
Absolutely.
that is, if somebody knows something that you don't, then they can mess around with you. People don't
Yep.
know that the US dollar can be printed out of nothing. Most people have no clue. And because of that, the US dollar can continue to be printed out of nothing. So with gold, that information asymmetry, whoever holds it is the one who has the information asymmetry. And then if let's say we expand this into, um, let's say we expand this into global commerce. So let's say BRICS, for example. If all these countries are creating a currency that's backed by whatever basket of assets there is, if who would hold it, first of all? Who would hold that gold? Let's say it's backed by gold. Who would hold it?
Rock, paper,
And
scissors.
how do you confirm that the gold is actually
They have
there?
it.
You just trust them, right?
Yep.
But whereas with gold, whereas with Bitcoin, you know if somebody else holds Bitcoin. They can send you their address. You can have a multi-sig wallet. Bitcoin is the only asset that you can have multiple people controlling at the same time. You can't really do that with any other asset. It's impossible. Wherever the gold sits is whoever's jurisdiction that is the one who's in control. Whereas with Bitcoin, you can be in control from anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter because it's on the internet. The internet is everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's the amount of trust that gold and silver bugs, again, I was that person, the amount of trust you have to run the world on a gold and silver standard are immense. It blows me
Yes.
away for people that claim to not trust government. They have all kinds of trust of government and so whatever bank deposit, safety deposit boxes from Brink's vaults or whatever it is. And this is the thing that's really crazy to me. And again, there are Bitcoiners that this is a cognitive dissonance inside of Bitcoiners' heads at times. And I don't want to name names, but this is the amount of people that believe that the government is like these contracts or these laws are just going to hold up. Like, this was had in the CBDC debate as well of like, well, they passed a law like the CBDCs won't happen here. It's like, when in the world did that ever stop a government from doing anything? Can anyone show me a time where a law stopped our governments from doing anything they didn't want to do? No, and unless people stand up and say, yeah, you're not doing that, and a bunch of people lock arms and fight it, they just do whatever they want. And so the amount of people that just trust that, because it's what I believe, we're just going to trust it. But if it's not what I believe, I'm going to fight it. It's so wild to me. Again, the cognitive dissonance of people believing that, we just went through 5 years ago. People were denied healthcare because they didn't inject something into their body, and they were denied other healthcare. They were coming in for a procedure or whatever. And they said, well, if you didn't do this and you can't do that, and you're telling me that governments or brokerage accounts or your 401k or pension can't be frozen or won't be frozen or won't be taken away from you, or you have to trust someone else to do it. That is mind blowing to me. That the level of mental gymnastics you have to think, well, yeah, that happened over here, but it definitely won't happen over here. It's unbelievable, Rajat. I can't even understand it. And then going back to the Oracle problem. So people talk about gold and silver bugs, talk about, well, we're going to do it in stable coins. Bitcoin is the answer to it. It is the Satoshi attached physical energy to the digital world. That's what you need, because there's the Oracle problem of trusting someone to have a stable coin backed by gold. You now have, again, this problem of physical world, digital world. How do you connect those two? You have to trust a middleman, literally a middleman or middlewoman, to make that sure that, or you can have a digital peg. How did that work out for, Do Kwon, who's now in prison? For these digital pegs or something to that effect, which when you have centralized entities that you have to trust, once again, whether they're algorithms or whatever, good luck. Good luck with that. So it's mind blowing to me. You have the answer, just everyone just is running around the answer everywhere. Bitcoin's just sitting there and everyone just going by it, just ignoring it, trying to come up with these other solutions when the thing is just sitting there staring at you in the face. And I guess what's easy to see is easy not to see, or what's easy to do is easy not to do, I guess.
You made a couple of really good points there. So the first one there, you believe that property rights will exist. That doesn't mean that they're going to exist. And
Right.
again, that's something that people don't get it. So let's say, for example, do you remember the Nixon shock,
Yeah.
where Nixon was like, we're going to
1971.
temporarily suspend the convertibility of the dollar to gold? That was temporary, and that was 50 years ago. How much longer is temporary going to last?
Like the temporary income tax, Rajat, right? The income tax in
Right.
America was temporary.
Yeah.
1913, income tax, everything, right? All of it. IRS.
And
Wild.
how do you trust a system like that? How do you know that? Okay, so one thing that I like to think about, like, this as a thought experiment. If let's say people did go to a gold standard, or the world did go to a gold standard, and governments wanted to take your gold from you because they're bankrupt now. Let's say they run out of their gold, they keep spending like crazy. They want to come to your house and take your gold. Uh, The thing that I think about all the time is, if they see the gold, they can take it. And gold is physical. You have to have it somewhere. Let's say you're known to have $1 billion worth of gold. Where are you going to keep that? Are you going to dig that in your backyard? Are you going to put that somewhere? If somebody sees it, they can take it. That if somebody has an idea of where it is, they can take it. They can kill you and they can take it, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Whereas with Bitcoin, let's say we do go to a Bitcoin standard, and you're known to have $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, or you have like 10 Satoshis and that's worth $1 billion. I'm just kidding, but you have a ton of Bitcoin. Somebody knows that you have that Bitcoin. How are they going to take it from you unless you give them? the exact location. Like you give them your private key, you give them your X pub, you give them all of that information, you give them your wallet. Um, how are they going to take that Bitcoin? They can't. Even if they kill you, they can't access that Bitcoin. And this is something that I mean, gold bugs are usually pretty paranoid about governments taking their wealth. And I don't know if they've thought of this. They think that okay, lead is going to protect me, but if somebody else has more lead than you, then you're screwed.
Yep, exactly. It's and the other thing too, and that I guess I don't want to move off that point really quick or too soon, but it's so crazy, and that's when people say disincentivizes war or disincentivizes violence. Bitcoin does. It truly is, because it's what you just explained. Now people can't just come beat you over the head easily and take your things, like you said, because no one knows who has Bitcoin, or if it's in your head, or if it's on your stamp seed plate or whatever. But if it's in your head and you can travel anywhere on Earth with 12 words or 24 words in your head, that is again something that is, unless there's an EMP that knocks out the entire globe, a solar flare that wipes out the entire world, or there's an asteroid that hits everything. So again, we acknowledge our tail risk. If something comes and wipes everything out in the entire world at one time, then again, that means we're on the same plane as everybody else. The people running the system, guess what? They're on our plane too. And winner take all at that point. So
Yeah,
I welcome that. Sure, like that's the craziest part is it's like the biggest and baddest guy wins at the end of the day. So there's a lot of people in the world that think that it's like oh, I want this world, like I'm a science, like I whatever. It's like, you don't want science. You want people to be moral and just, and because if it was just science, the biggest baddest guys would win. Genghis Khan would
yeah,
come and he would just take over. And so
yeah,
that's, again, a little bit of a side note, but this is the other thing too. You're betting on Russia and China. So again, if people, because again, the gold and silver bugs don't believe that it's in Fort Knox. I know some do, but a lot don't. Most people don't in general. So you're betting on a world where China and Russia win. So as someone in the Western Hemisphere, if you're like, yeah, it's gold and silver, that's going to be, well, you're betting on Russia and China. You're saying they are going to be the winners of the world going forward. In essence, if you're pining for that, that's again something that I hear rarely, if ever, talked about. That it's maybe at most I hear, well, it's gonna be a multipolar world, and Russia and China will be like over there, and then we'll be over here doing our thing again on what, the Bitcoin time chain. Like what else? What's the other answer? So you're basically betting, as a Westerner, you're betting on Russia and China winning. That's and it goes back to like the doomer apocalyptic thoughts and fantasies of metals people. Again, I was that person, and I woke up one day and I realized I don't want to be that person. It's a very doomer, dark world that you live in, where it's apocalyptic thoughts. Yeah, the other side of the world will win because they have all the gold and silver, basically India, Russia, China. And so that you realize this is hope. We talked about property rights earlier. Bitcoin is the first time that humans all over the world can have property rights secured to them that no one can mess with. Before, it was only America for hundreds of years, where you had the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that gave people property rights, more or less, generalizing to a degree. But now you don't have to be on embassy soil or American soil to have property rights anywhere in the world. That didn't exist until the Satoshi white paper and the existence of Bitcoin itself. So just some humanity changing things that, again, it's frustrating. We get frustrated at times because it's obvious once you get it. It's very hard before you get it. And so I empathize, and I know you do too. And so it's tough, but at times you get fired up, because it's like it's right there, and you feel like people aren't doing the homework. They're not putting in the hours in order to understand a humanity changing, the discovery of fire, the wheel. We're trying to, like, we keep putting the cart before the horse and doing these other things. We're gonna go crypto, altcoin, casino, gambling, and we're gonna do all these other things. Fantasy sports betting, esports, all these different things in order to. The answer is right there. All you have to do is provide some value for society, stack some sats, and away you go. So
and one of the things that I saw a comment here. That's a really great point. People are doing whatever they can to just to make ends
mhm.
meet, and if they don't, then they're kind of screwed. They don't get their physiological needs met, and that's something that I really like talking about. I love talking about that, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you have these
Yeah.
needs. If the needs aren't met, then you're. I mean, if your physiological needs aren't met, you don't have food, water, air, shelter. You're probably going to die in a very short period of time. And something that was a really great point. And I saw a comment here. So you can see here, can't the LBMA, I'm not sure what LBMA stands for, and central banks just keep
London Bank Metals. So
association.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I,
Oh, so
yep.
okay, so they're basically like the people who I guess they,
Yeah,
they
that
almost
run the
set the price of
LBMA. Is
gold.
that what he's saying? Yeah, I can't. I got to see the
Right.
comment here. I
So he
can't
said,
see it.
can't they
Oh yeah,
just
there it is.
keep
Yeah.
raising the price of gold to make themselves rich by their word? Meanwhile, nobody knows how much gold there is, yet the world trusts these people. See, the issue is that in terms of fiat currencies, and this is what gives them so much power over us. In terms of fiat currencies, they can do this.
Mm-hmm.
They can keep bidding the price up and they can keep going up. They can keep raising the price. But in terms of Bitcoin, they can't because Bitcoin has a finite supply. If 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 let's say, and that actually in a way that's what FTX was trying to do. FTX was trying to pump up the price
Yes.
of altcoins in terms of Bitcoin, and they couldn't do it for a very long time because there was so much sell pressure. And that's exactly what happened with FTT, for example. FTT had
Great
so much
point.
sell pressure that it crashed. But what you have to look at is which side is more powerful. The people, let's say the central banks raise the price of gold to $10,000 per ounce or $100,000 per ounce. I guarantee you that there's going to be more gold coming into the market to be sold at those prices because people have gold. Something like I was reading some statistic. It said 3 billion people on earth own gold, whereas less than 100
Wow.
million own Bitcoin. So in this case, let's say the central banks do try to raise the price of gold because that's what they need to do in order to remain stable. People can start dumping gold into the market, bringing that price back down. And those people have way more power than the central banks. At the end of the day, the scale is way heavier on our side than it is on theirs. But people just haven't taken control. That's one of the things. So let's say if they do try to raise the price of gold in terms of fiat currencies, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because that's going to lead to hyperinflation. What happened to
Mm-hmm.
the Weimar mark
Just yep.
when the price
Yep.
of gold just skyrocketed? It died. It went away. That's exactly if they do this, they're going to lead to hyperinflation in the US dollar. People aren't going to want
You're
to save
crushing
the US
people.
dollar
Yep.
because at the end of the day, that is the scale that people look at. But in terms of Bitcoin, again, they can't do this. So they can raise the price in terms of US dollars because the US dollar has that infinite supply. But in terms of Bitcoin, they can't because let's say, for example, if the price of Bitcoin, let's say, for example, the price of gold goes way too high in terms of Bitcoin, people will sell their gold to buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has a finite supply. So when they sell their gold to buy Bitcoin, a lot less Bitcoin is available to be bought, and it all depends on the buyers and sellers. So in terms of fake currency, and that's one of the problems here. In terms of fake currency, they can keep raising prices of everything, and I think that's the main problem we have. They do keep raising the price of everything. It's all intentional. Have you read The Price of Tomorrow?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah. Oh,
yes.
it's right behind you. I just noticed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's such a great book
It's
because
amazing.
it shows you that inflation is necessary in order for the current financial system to survive. If there was no inflation, then the current financial system would be dead. And that's exactly what Warpaint is describing here. What what what
Oh, it's war paint.
what he's
That's
describing
awesome.
there is exactly what governments want. And at the end of the day, gold is a finite asset. Bitcoin is a finite asset. They can keep raising the price if they want to, but at the end of the day, again, the market is the one who decides what's going to happen to these assets. I think Bitcoiners are strong enough, and they keep accumulating more and more. If the price of, let's say, for example, if I have 1 ounce of gold and I can trade it for 1 Bitcoin, I'm going to do that right away. That's the first change that I make. That I'm going to get rid of that gold immediately because I know that that's not sustainable. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the only thing that has that finite supply. Whereas with gold, we already mentioned a lot of the issues. You can't move it around. You have no idea how much exists. You have no idea who holds it. All of those are
How do you say
detractors in
it?
my mind in terms
Yep.
of gold.
Yeah. 100%. And that's it's something that you go back to the scarcity, right? And just the title of the show, even this the only Bitcoin is the only finite asset for your finite time and energy on Earth. It's the only one. Gold and silver is not finite. So to exactly your point, there is a 1 or 2% inflation rate to gold and silver, and there always has been, there always will be, because to your point, not only will above ground gold and silver come out of hiding, all of a sudden you're going to have people incentivized, right? And there are people always
Yeah.
mining it out of the ground, but you're going to have more coming out of the ground. If it gets so high, you're going to have people going out off the planet to go find gold and silver, whatever it is. If it's incentivizing people to go do such a thing, so eventually it comes back down into equilibrium, and that's where Bitcoin, there's no principle, because it's the only finite asset equal to your finite time and energy. That's why it's the perfect trade, the perfect pair, and that's
Yeah.
why people say Bitcoin is time and time is Bitcoin. There's no principle saying that Bitcoin can't be adopted overnight, and that that's what breaks the model. It's not some like charts and graphs and numbers and macro this, and if China
Yeah.
invades Taiwan, it's none of that. It's Is there a loss of confidence? Again, to one of the other points you just made a minute ago, hyperinflation. What is that? It's a loss of confidence in the currency. That's what it is. It's not that you printed too much. I mean, theoretically, you could print hundreds and trillions and quadrillions and bazillions of dollars, but if people still think there's some type of value behind that, then it'll just keep being used. And so at some point, the iceberg melts enough, and then it just flips, the gradually, then suddenly. And that's what we've been talking about. And that's why you're trying to chip away at people's understanding of what's happening here. And eventually, someday, that just flips like an iceberg. And the one thing that I've been trying to do lately is like build a model in the sense of, because people say this a lot, and I know you get this a lot, Rajat, of, well, if the dollar didn't exist, then Bitcoin wouldn't exist. Or like, no one prices the world in ounces, but people can price the world in sats. And so
Yeah.
what confuses the hell out of people is the dollar, the paradox of the dollar being there. So people don't understand. We're like, well, and someone just said it earlier that you had pulled up one of the other comments. It was, well, Bitcoin year to date's down 4%, and the silver doorstop's 118% up. And again, yeah, we can cherry pick all the data we want, but that's based off of fake fiat currencies. So a real world would be what is, and I just was briefly doing this. And again, my math might be a little off, but you can see where I'm going with this, where I was trying to look at like 1913 prices, dollar prices in 1913, and a loaf of bread was like 4 cents or whatever it is. Because I was trying to get back to a world where there was like a gold standard that was just backed by hard money. And what were fiat prices at that time, to then juxtapose it with, okay, what would the sats be then for that loaf of bread at that time? And it was, you're getting at like, 4 sats or 47 sats. I can't remember what it is. So you can start seeing a world where anything, if you can get, technically, again, if you're buying a loaf of bread and it costs you more than 40, it was either 4 sats or 47 sats, I can't remember now, then you're overpaying in sats for the bread.
Yeah.
However, you need to, we need to build a circular economy, replace it, and then spend the Bitcoin first, spend the sats first. And so we can get around that and build this economy. But at the end of the day, the world starts coming down to this point where the sats it's 4 sats for a loaf of bread or whatever it is. And so then you're going to have these minor swings where it becomes, if there's not enough bread in the store, then you're going to have these little fluctuations in the amount of sats, right? That just, maybe it's 10 sats and then it's back down to 4. Maybe it's 2 sats. So you're going to have this world where it fluctuates based on the actual free market instead of the injections of the currency being blown into the economy, or the interest rates, or the fake things that the Fed is doing, or the fractional reserve banking, the shadow banking system. So that's a world where, again, housing, a world that you and I have done for a long time, being in real estate, where if a bunch of houses, say a house costs 1,000 sats and a bunch of them burn down, like we just had in the Palisades over the last year or whatever it was, then guess what? The house in sats is going to go up a bit because now there's a glut. But that incentivizes the builders to say, oh, wow, I can get more sats now for building some houses. They go build some more houses, then it comes back down, and there's an equilibrium. That is just completely
Yeah.
blown out of the water with what's happening in the world right now because of fiat. No one knows. They're pricing everything in this fake paper, and it's just diluting everything they do in their life.
I think one of the things that you said really well there was you kind of described the supply demand curve,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to find the equilibrium. If the supply runs out, then there's going to be more sellers who come into
Yep.
the market. You can literally pay somebody to make more houses. You can't
Yes.
pay somebody to make more Bitcoin. And I think that's exactly what's happening with gold right now. So you can see here, this is a chart that shows you the price of gold in terms of Bitcoin. And I'll get rid of the sats here just so that, actually, let's keep it in sats just so that people can see. So
Yep.
at one point, you can see here, people are celebrating this right here. They're celebrating this little increase, this, right? And
Oh.
even in 2022, 1 ounce of gold was worth 10.7 million satoshis. Today it's worth 4.866 million satoshis. But you can see here, this happens over and over again. It went from 64 billion satoshis per ounce of gold to 130 million. So it went from 64 billion, 646 Bitcoin to here 100 and 122 million, so 1.22 Bitcoin. And then it came back up to 586 million Satoshi, so 5.86 Bitcoin per ounce of gold. And then it dropped again. You can see here, dropped to, sorry, my camera's right in front of my, it went to 7.7 million Satoshis per ounce of gold. And then it went back up to 36 million, came back down to 2.8 million, went back up to 10 million. And the trend, I mean, this is going to happen. This is how markets work. It's all sentiment based. The way that I see it, I mean, the way that people are thinking now is they have they see gold going up, so they think it's going to go up forever. That's just how people think. People think, oh, if something's happening, it's going to happen forever. They see Bitcoin going down, they think Bitcoin is going to go down forever, and they just build their entire model of the world based on a snapshot of what's happening right now. And that's exactly what's happening here. So the way
Prisoner
that
in
I
the
see it,
moment.
maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that this is primed to come down. I don't know when. Who knows? Maybe it'll go. Maybe for all we know, it goes back up to 10 million satoshis per ounce of gold. I don't know if that's going to happen. Let's say Bitcoin does have that 4-year cycle where it crashes. I have no idea what's going to happen. But over the long term, I think we've made some pretty reasonable claims for why Bitcoin should be outperforming gold for the very, very long term. There's no reason for it not to.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, it just goes back to the scarcity of it. Again, the
Yeah,
title of this, there is no other scarce asset besides your time here on Earth. There's none. So find it, let me know. And I'm open to changing. That's why
yeah,
I became a Bitcoiner after being a gold and silver bug for years. I'm open to changing. That's
yeah,
the beauty of this. When facts change, you must change. And this is not Bitcoin's not an IQ test. It's an ego and humility test. Period. This is all this is. And it's hey, is there something I'm missing? Is there something I'm missing here? If gold and silver worked so well, why is it always gone to fiat paper currencies for 5,000 years? And why all of a sudden is there a Bitcoin as well? So not you're getting attacked from both ends as a gold and silver bug, unfortunately.
yeah,
And so again, empathize. It is frustrating. I understand. I get it. And people just doing this constantly. It's just this back and forth thing. But there's another comment in here too that again, some of these things I think there are concerns though to Bitcoin. And so some of these people saying it's controlled, it's
oh,
whatever, blah blah blah, getting ready for government to seize your Bitcoin. Again, that's going to be much easier to seize your gold at the end of the day. Ironically, people think because it's digital, like it's going to be easy to seize your Bitcoin all of a sudden. But again, this is where self custody comes in. The 12 words in your head, the government can't seize it. That's why
yeah,
you have nodes. And again, like this misunderstanding of the system is what's very difficult for people to understand at the end of the day. But I think there is the concern though, if you go back, like I've been the last couple of weeks, I've been watching some old interviews from 15 years ago. I think it was John Matonis teaching Max Kaiser what Bitcoin was, listening to old Andreas Antonopoulos videos and things of that nature. And Bitcoin has lost its way to a degree. I think a lot of Bitcoiners have lost their way in the sense of just being so telegraphing, tunnel vision, I should say, on looking at ETFs and thinking about price and this fiat price so much and thinking it's going to validate everything. It's going to go up and everyone's going to like, oh yeah, see, like, and then they're going to start doing their homework and they're going to learn what we've learned and put their 1,000 hours in. That's just not how it works. I mean, it really is each one teach one. That's why what you do every single day is so important in the different educators, authors, writers, the people coming on the chats here, educating their family and friends. That's why it's so important because it's going to be bottom up. People, there's no amount of sovereign wealth funds are going to come in a country. Look, Donald Trump or El Salvador. A president can't just come in and dictate and be like, yeah, we're doing Bitcoin, guys. Like, it doesn't matter because the people don't know what in the world Bitcoin is or what's happening. People aren't going to just convert just because they're just going to kind of go with what they've known. And so there is something to that. And I think that's a fine line that, and again, and I acknowledge that, but that's why I'm here fighting for it and educating on it because it's not, if you don't tend your garden, it'll get overgrown with weeds. And I think that's where a lot of Bitcoiners go wrong in the sense of they're just like, you can just stack sats and chill. Again, I know not everyone's meant to do the same task. I get that, but people need to educate on it more and educate what money is. But again, fiat's going to do its thing. It's going to hyperinflate. The government's going to keep doing dumb things. A lot bad things are going to happen in life, and it's going to keep converting people. And so I think that's where it's tough, because you don't want people to have to burn their hand on the stove. Unfortunately, that's how humans work, and that's how we learn a lot of times, is we burned our hand. We don't want to see it happen, and so you're passionate about that fact. Like, again, we don't need more people in the network in order for us to use Bitcoin. Like, Rajat and I
Yeah.
don't need the price. Bitcoiners, everyone in the chat here doesn't need the price to go up. I can use Bitcoin. I can send sats to Rajat right now without more people coming in the network. That's the beauty of it. Because people are adopting Bitcoin, and I think this is the paradox. We want to teach each family. Is it better for Bitcoin to go to 1 million, or is it better to teach 1 million families about Bitcoin, how to run a node, self-custody? And then ironically, yes, the network value will grow, and then it will keep eating all these other assets. But we've been focused so long, I think, on price, that it's now there's one little price dip, and you get a bunch of gold and silver bugs in here trying to hoot and holler. You get, like, you get people, you'll get Bitcoiners fleeing. You get, like, it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, we've missed that opportunity, and we've been focusing on the wrong thing. So that is my one thing where I do agree with many people in the chat. I know you do too, Rajat, because you're a teacher at heart, and that's why we continue doing it and showing up every single day, because you're not going to do it otherwise. You got to tend the garden.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And even when people say, "Oh, just buy Bitcoin and chill," I mean, you still have to create value in the world,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't do anything, then over time your Bitcoin stack will be taken from you, because you have to spend it. You have to still survive. And this comment here from Ranger kind of it kind of makes me a
Yeah.
little it makes me a little happy, because this shows you that the gold bugs, I mean, it seems like they're technologically behind, and I don't know if they know how to read charts. So you can see here, if we take a look at this chart again, at one point 1 ounce of gold was worth 657 Bitcoin. Today, 1 Bitcoin will buy you close to a kilogram of gold. And this is in a log scale. So let's take a look at it without a log scale. Like, this is the price of Bitcoin
Wild.
in terms, or sorry, this is the price of gold in terms of Bitcoin. It only goes down. It doesn't go up over the long term.
Yep.
It can't, because so the way that I see it, if something is finite versus something is not finite, that's the same as something having a finite supply and something else having an infinite supply. Gold, technically, in terms of Bitcoin, has an infinite supply. There will always be more gold. We'll always find more. Nobody has any idea how much gold exists. Whereas with Bitcoin, we know exactly how much gold, we know exactly how much Bitcoin exists. People can't create gold today, but at some point, maybe they will be able to. Nobody can guarantee that they won't be able to. But I can guarantee that, based on how human nature works, people won't want more than 21 million Bitcoin.
And it's incentives. It's
Yeah,
incentives of the system. I think that's what confuses the hell out of people as well. The incentives of the system. Again,
yeah,
the incentives of gold and silver. I don't want gold and silver anymore, because that's not the future of the world. So I'm incentivized to look for something else that hasn't reset itself 5,000 times. Again, if
yeah,
you want to hold gold and silver in your cabinet back here, that is fine. Do we need gold and silver to do certain things on Earth? Put, in Tomahawk cruise missiles. I get it. Like, I understand that. Hopefully, with a neutral money that captures deflation and there's more abundance in the world, we won't need to use Tomahawks very often. We won't
yeah,
need to use ICBMs as often. So, again, these use cases are great, and that's where in Sats these gold and silver will come down, because they'll be used in utility items, dentistry, or whatever it is, mirrors and computers and things of that nature. But they'll come down to that utility price. They won't have this monetary premium and utility price. That's, your money shouldn't have all these use cases. Like, that's not money at the end of the day. Those are commodities, or they're assets to use in the world. But that's not a money. And so
yeah,
money, Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is time, like we said, finite time on Earth, finite asset, the only one available. So it is the perfect money that we've had. It's the best money we've ever had. It's probably the first money we've had, the actual money. If you want to go by the properties and the actual definitions of money in that sense, and get really technical about it, and then we can back it out to money is psychological, money is what
yeah.
I believe it is, and all these things, right? So that you can get into those debates. But I think that's what's interesting.
Yeah, that's the key. The You can't change this. This is gonna happen no matter what. We're not telling you don't buy gold. You can have as much gold as you want to. We're just trying to inform you that, in our opinion, Bitcoin will outperform gold over the long term. And having your, if you bet on the fastest horse, then you win. If you bet on the second fastest horse, it doesn't matter. You still lose. You're the first loser if you come in second place. And I think that's the message here. If people if people find that, actually, I want to end it off here, but people, I wanted to mention, if people find this conversation valuable, we're gonna do more. I thought that this was great. We always have this really great chemistry where we can just talk about pretty much anything. We didn't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
decide the topic here before. We just decided it while we were on the live. I thought it
And a
was
great chat
extremely
too.
valuable.
Yeah, let it kind of
Exactly.
flow with the flow.
And Brendan, if anybody wants to subscribe to your YouTube channel, I'm gonna post the link here. What do you do on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so doing the same thing, live streams. Rajat, obviously you've been on. We've been on each other's, interviewed each other for the podcast. So it's a podcast is the one part, and then doing live streams on the other hand of things like this. Building community. It's the most important thing we have, obviously, at the end of the day, is community. So doing the live streams to build community and to educate people and talk about current events and a little more personal, I guess. And then the podcast part, which is trying to grab people from all over. And we're trying to get into, I've got, ironically, I have some gold and silver people coming on. We had Andy Scheckman on the podcast like 2 months ago. And that was, I think Andy talked for like 55 minutes straight. Like I didn't say one word. And the guy is brilliant guy. And we have Alan Hibbard from Gold and Silver, which is, again, Mike Maloney is where I learned a lot of what I know from, a lot of what I know 15 years ago, the hidden secrets of money. And Alan is his right-hand man now in the content space. So that's coming out soon. And then there's someone else too that I did something with. But anyway, we're talking a lot about gold and silver, Bitcoin. And so you can go to, Brandon _Gentili. Check that out there. And man, it's just always so fun doing this with you, Rajat.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a quick one. We usually go like 2 hours. This one was pretty fun. I have something
We'll
else
just
that
do
I have
more.
to do. I just
Yeah,
have something else
exactly.
that I have to do in the next hour. Next one, maybe we'll go
Do
longer, and
in a
maybe we
couple
can go
weeks.
on your
Yeah,
channel.
yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, cool, Brendan.
Great
Great
stuff. Great
talking to
chat.
you. Any last words that you wanted to mention? Anything that you want to say?
No, zoom out, and but I think we need to put the work in though.
That's it.
I'm gonna remove stack sats and chill from my lexicon because it's you gotta put work in. Whatever system we're going
Yeah.
to, the fiat system is collapsing. If we go back to a gold and silver standard, which maybe the eastern part of the world does, hey, but we need something tying us to reality. But
Yes.
the good people of the world need to stand up and start taking on the evil that is lurking around the world. That's where I'll leave it.
Agreed, agreed. And if anybody who's watching, if you do find this useful, go subscribe to Brandon. I listen to his conversations with people all the time. Really great conversations, great conversationalist, Brandon. You ask some of the I think you ask really great questions because you're actually curious and you want to learn and you want to see the other person's perspective. So c- great work on that.
Thank you,
Go
man.
subscribe to Brandon.
You as well.
I linked his YouTube here. Go subscribe to him. That's it for today. If you found value in this chat, leave a thumbs up. We really appreciate that. It helps our content to get pushed to more people. All right, everyone, let's end it off here. Great
Thanks, guys.
chat.